Want to make Mom's day? Get to your Nordstrom Rack now and score amazing deals for Mother's Day, which is Sunday, May 12th. Find tons of gifts from only $30 at Nordstrom Rack. Fragrance, jewelry, luxury bags, activewear, beauty, and more. Save on Kate Spade New York, Stuart Weitzman, and Ted Baker London. Great brands, great prices. So shop your Nordstrom Rack store today and treat Mom to the good stuff from just $30.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. See ebaymotors.com.
The living room is where you make life's most beautiful memories. But your sofa shouldn't be the one remembering them. The new life-resistant, high-performance furniture collection from Ashley is designed to withstand all the spills, slip-ups, and muddy paws that come with the best parts of life. Ashley high-performance sofas and recliners are soft, on-trend, and easy to clean. Shop the high-performance furniture in-store or online at ashley.com. Ashley, for the love of home.
This episode of the Gegenpressing podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season. From MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. BetOnline brings you all the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast. I'm Manu and he's Stefan Bienkowski. We're doing this a little bit later this week, Stefan. I feel like we're doing everything a little bit later this week because A, I'm in the same time zone than you are, or almost the same time zone, and B, the European fixtures really just meant a lot of late nights and the late publications and content coming at different times. So we're doing this on a Friday morning rather than on a Thursday night for you, Thursday morning for me, which is fine. I think that's just fine. But before we dive into the second last match day of the season, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. These kind of European weeks are hectic at best. My newsletter only went up late last night, I suppose. And of course, it also helps that you are in Europe, so we can record this quite easily in the morning rather than you having to wake up at like 2 in the morning or something in Canada. So yeah, it makes sense. And I think by the time it comes up, most people probably won't even notice that it was recorded later, I suspect. So I think we're all good. But yeah, lovely day here in Scotland. The springtime is finally here. I was actually walking around in a t-shirt for the first time in about 6 months. So yeah, it's all kind of gearing up to the summer, which is very exciting.
Yeah, it is nice. Same in Munich. Sun is out today, 21 degrees. Everything is green. The birds are singing. It's a wonderful day for everyone in Munich, unless you're part of the red camp. But you know, that's life. Still a lot of very upside down frowny faces walking around. I went to the supermarket this morning to buy some breakfast stuff, and there was the kids had like their first school break. There's a huge gymnasium, which is like the German equivalent of a high school, right? Right down the street from where my parents live, and all the kids were talking about the Bayern game and how Harry Kane should have scored that one shot, and then it would have been all different, blah blah blah. So yeah, some kids upset, and then of course the kids that with the blue jerseys, I guess they're just permanently depressed, so we don't count them. But anyways, other than that, it's been a wonderful day in Munich. Stefan, it's kind of crazy. We're almost there. This is almost the end of the season.
Yeah, I should ask before we go on, have you been surfing in Munich yet?
At the river? No, I have
Yeah.
not. I've actually never tried it.
I'm quite surprised at that. Do you not surf in Canada?
I do surf. I surf in the ocean, yeah. But
Yeah,
I think
it's very different though. It's in Munich. It's like a kind of it's like a half pipe. Like,
I know.
Skateboarding. It's very tight.
and there's a crowd. I think I'd be
Yeah.
super nervous.
Yeah. Those guys love it though. They obviously do it for the attention.
Yeah, I mean they're really good. There's a story. I forgot his name. There's an absolute top surfer. He's the best surfer in the world, and he tried it, and he lasted like 10 seconds and fell on his face, and he's never seen again. Forgot his name. It's a funny story that like there was a surf convention here in town, and he thought he could just master it, and he's like a world champion in big wave surfing from Hawaii, and just absolute disaster for him. And of course, like there's cameras out, and everyone photographs it. Whenever you drive past that bridge in the English Garden, there's tourists everywhere, right, taking photos. So I think I'd be super nervous.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Euros when there's just thousands of drunk Scottish football fans walking around, and they think they're probably hallucinating when they see people surfing on the river in the park.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Maybe I'll do it late at night when there's no one there, so I can say I've tried it. But I'm a little less self-conscious about it. I've been tempted, like honestly, and they do it year round. I've seen people do it in the midst of winter in like wetsuits. Which is this, I mean, it's not that crazy. I do it in Canada in the middle of the winter as well, I guess, so it's no different, but still very impressive. For those who don't know, it's a tiny river that goes into the English Garden, and there's like a natural wave, right? That's like constant, and so you can kind of surf that wave. It is always crowds on the bridge and then all the way down. And I've seen like people like there's like a staircase that goes down. People like use the staircase to almost skateboard down the case and then straight onto the wave and then stand the wave. Yeah, there's some crazy people doing this.
Yeah, it's really impressive. If you're in Munich and you go around the English Gardens, it's definitely worth checking out.
It's on the Prinzregentenstraße, if you need to know. So, anyways, enough about surfing, even though that's a really cool sport, and this is a really big Munich tradition. And the river is called the Eisbach. I should add that too, which means the icy river, which tells you everything about the temperature of the thing. But yeah, we're starting actually with a bit of a derby on Friday evening. Today, as we record, that's Augsburg against Stuttgart. They are in two different states of Germany, but they're both Swabians, right? So this is the Swabian derby between Augsburg and Stuttgart. Pretty big fixture for Stuttgart. Stuttgart have now declared that they want to finish the season second, which means that they have to pretty much win this game. I don't think their chances are that bad, Stefan, considering what happened to Bayern Munich midweek. I'm pretty sure that Bayern are pretty much won't care where they finish in the league now, and half the team is essentially injured, so that's going to play into this as well. I think Stuttgart are going to do their homework here. I went for a 3-0 Stuttgart win.
Yeah, I'm kind of broadly along the same lines. Augsburg have kind of taken their foot off the pedal in recent weeks. They've kind of got to that point where they're high enough to not have to worry about relegation anymore, but have probably accepted they're not going to catch Frankfurt. So inconsistency and complacency have kind of really began to kind of seep into that side. And against a very good Stuttgart side who still have something to play for, I've gone for a 2-1 win for Stuttgart.
That would get them to 70 points. That's very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, been fantastic all year, and I'm still sitting on a Stuttgart story that's going to come out at some point. Just have to wait for some things to come up still and some interviews. But yeah, they've just been brilliant this year. So stay tuned for that. Up next, Leipzig against Werder. What do you think here, Stefan?
Yeah, I've kind of gone for a pretty straightforward Leipzig win here, to be honest with you. It's, Leipzig have more or less done a pretty decent job towards the end of the season of finishing strongly. I know they kind of were held to a draw against Hoffenheim last weekend, and I know Bremen are doing okay, although a 2-2 draw against Gladbach isn't the most impressive result in the world. But I still kind of feel like at home they should beat this Bremen side, so I'm going for a 2-0 win for Marco Rose's team.
Yeah, nice and easy. Okay, up next is Freiburg against Heidenheim, and that's your match of the week, and I can only guess why, but, I think this is maybe the most emotional game of the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. It's Christian Streich's last home game before he his fateful farewell from the club. As you said, it's going to be hugely emotional, but it'll also be an important game for them. It is something of a derby between the two clubs, but it's also a 6-pointer of sorts in that kind of race for European football, of course. 7th place, if I'm not mistaken, should now be guaranteed European football, I think.
It is.
Yeah, so, Freiburg are still in that race with Hoffenheim, and I guess Heidenheim still kind of maybe harbouring some hopes of getting in there. So a bit of a 6-pointer. And I got to say, I really struggled to separate these two teams. Freiburg at home haven't been great so far. They haven't been great in general, to be honest with you. And I was very tempted to go for a draw here, but I just think the emotions might carry Freiburg over the line here. So I've gone for a very narrow, but very entertaining 3-2 win.
Yeah, I went to something similar, 2-1 win for Freiburg. I had a drawdown first. For the very same reasons that you mentioned, but I just don't think Streich is going to not win his last game at home. There's something, the players are going to play for him. There's no doubt about it, and that can make a difference. Having said all that, Stefan, that would get Freiburg to 44 points. Depending what Frankfurt do, that's only could be just 1 point behind Frankfurt. And remember, if Dortmund win the Champions League, what happens to 6th place? That's the Champions League spot.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
When the dust settles on this, Streich could lead Freiburg to a Champions League finish in his final season at Freiburg.
Yeah, which would be incredible. I wonder if that would convince him to stay for one more season.
I knowing him, probably not, but it's kind of crazy that that's actually still in the cards. And it's not even that unrealistic now. It's incredible, and that leads us to that next game, right? We have to see what Gladbach do against Frankfurt. I was at the Frankfurt game last weekend against Leverkusen, where they got absolutely demolished by Leverkusen. Fair play, you would say, right? It's Leverkusen, but Leverkusen basically played. It wasn't even their B team. It was a very experimental lineup, right? So experimental that they brought on a young Brazilian who hadn't played in like 8 months because he was injured and had an excellent game. And they just took this Frankfurt team apart. And talking to Dino Topmöller after the game, he seemed very much deflated. And he had that stare at the press conference, where they just look into the distance and that they're not there. And then there's Gladbach, who, have been pretty disappointing all year too. Still fighting against relegation, right? They do need the points here. And at the end of the day, this game just had an unhappy 1-1 written all over for me, so that's what I went with.
I've got the exact same thing, and I completely agree with you. This is a game that Frankfurt should be winning, but I just suspect they won't. Like you said, they were far from impressive last week, and their away form has also been pretty poor. They've lost 3 of the last 3 games on the road. Gladbach equally have not been impressive, so I mean, Frankfurt kind of stumbling to a win here wouldn't entirely surprise me, but 2 pretty poor teams at this point of the season, so I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah. I was going to say something about Frankfurt, but can't have been that important because I forgot it. So let's just move on to the next game. Köln against Union Berlin. Are we finally going to see Union Berlin kind of heave themselves out of this relegation zone here?
I think we will. They obviously changed their head coach. We talked about it in the main show this week. Not a dramatic change. They've obviously just kind of removed the head coach and brought in kind of some of the understudies, so it's not as if it's going to be a major difference, but I suspect it might be enough to kind of galvanise the players into putting in a good performance. I'm also still just entirely unconvinced by this Cologne side. I know they've obviously beat Bochum and they got a draw against Freiburg last weekend, but I just kind of think Union can still maybe do something here. So I've gone for a narrow 1-0 win for Union Berlin, which would, of course, if I'm not mistaken, would confirm that Cologne are down. If they're not already, they have automatically been relegated yet, but yeah, and should confirm Union Berlin's spot in the league next season if other results go their way, I think.
Yeah, it might not be quite enough, even with a win, depending on the other results, right?
Yeah.
It would definitely confirm their spot in a relegation playoff, which, I mean, when we get closer to it, we have to talk about. But, I'm not convinced you want to play the relegation playoffs this year because you're not going to get Hamburg. So it's not going to be a freebie like it usually is. But I will have to see. I'm with you. I think Union Berlin are going to win this game. I went for a 2-1 win for them. They essentially brought in the same trifecta that ran the club briefly when Urs Fischer was let go. Mutually terminated, I think is the right term there, right? And so I just think that they're going to have a performance similar to, I mean, in fairness, they did play well in the second half against Bochum. It just was too little too late, right? And if they play like they did in the second half against Bochum, they're going to beat this Köln side, who have been really poor. And I guess, as you said, that will confirm Köln's relegation, and then we'll have to see what happens with the rest of the results. Up next, then, is Mainz against Dortmund. I went back and forth here many times, Stefan, and I ultimately think that this Dortmund team will have anything on their mind but playing in the Bundesliga, and I think Mainz will have everything on their mind but staying in the league. So I actually think Mainz are going to pull a 2-1 victory here.
I was really tempted to go for something similar. Then I remembered last weekend where Terzic basically played the youth team and they carefully, comfortably dispatched Augsburg. And I think Terzic is more or less going to do the exact same thing here. And typically that would mean that, B team players who are a bit disgruntled, they haven't had much game time, or older players maybe aren't what they used to be. But in terms of Dortmund, it actually just means a lot of exciting young players who are desperate to play. And I reckon, despite Mainz's good form, especially at home, that in itself might be too much for them to handle. So I've actually gone for a 2-1 win for Dortmund, funnily enough.
Interesting. Yeah, I really struggled with this Dortmund team and putting together a prediction here, because they're just like, whenever you bet against them in the Bundesliga, they pull something off, something weird. I think the only safe bet right now is to bet on them in the Champions League. It's just a different beast entirely. And of course, like, as we get closer to that Champions League final on June 1st, right? If I remember correctly, we'll have to talk a lot more about them. But I think they're actually perfectly set up for big Champions League opponents like Real Madrid, for example, and really badly set up for smaller teams like Mainz. And of course, we have to also remember this Mainz game, although it was in Dortmund, not in Mainz, carries that baggage from last year where they threw away the Bundesliga title. But yeah, I don't know. I think everything Dortmund do from here on to June 1st is all with the Champions League final in mind. Right? I mean, we talked so much about how Bayern Munich lost to Real Madrid because half the team was essentially walking wounded. I think for Terzic, that's the only thing on his mind right now. Get everyone fit. It's kind of like preparing yourself for a World Cup or European Championships almost, isn't it? Like every game now, like those two last games are essentially friendlies to get yourself ready for the big one on June 1st.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. See ebaymotors.com.
Want to make Mom's day? Get to your Nordstrom Rack now and score amazing deals for Mother's Day, which is Sunday, May 12th. Find tons of gifts from only $30 at Nordstrom Rack. Fragrance, jewelry, luxury bags, activewear, beauty, and more. Save on Kate Spade New York, Stuart Weitzman, and Ted Baker London. Great brands, great prices. So shop your Nordstrom Rack store today and treat Mom to the good stuff from just $30.
Whether you're a morning person or a bedtime procrastinator, everyone deserves a mattress that works for their style. And you'll find the best mattress for you at Ashley. The new Temper-Adapt collection at Ashley brings you one-of-a-kind body-conforming technology, making every sleep tailored to be your best. The collection also features cool-to-the-touch covers and motion absorption to help minimize sleep disruptions from partners, pets, or kids. Shop the all-new Temper-Adapt collection at Ashley, in-store or online at ashley.com. Ashley, for the love of home.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and that's kind of the interesting thing about Dortmund right now and why it's so hard to kind of make serious predictions about them.
Yeah.
But maybe we might see some players obviously get game time if there's maybe not fitness-wise. But I think, Dortmund's win over PSG was undoubtedly down to the fact that Terzic was able to basically play the exact same starting 11 in both legs. And he was only able to do that because he was able to take his eye off the Bundesliga. So, yeah. I suspect like I said, I suspect we'll see a very different team from the one that played against PSG. But I just think it'll probably be still too good for Mainz.
Bet on the unpredictable when you are betting on Dortmund. That's my advice. That's my advice for everyone out there. Bet for the unpredictable. Okay, that gets us to the first Sunday game, and that's Darmstadt against Hoffenheim. What do you think here, Stefan?
I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward win for Hoffenheim, to be honest with you. They picked up a decent draw against RB Leipzig in last weekend. Their away form remains pretty dreadful, despite being one of the best in the league. They've just all of a sudden completely lost it in terms of points. But they have played some pretty decent teams in there. They've played Frankfurt away, which are very different from Frankfurt. When they're on the road, rather. Obviously Leverkusen in there as well. Mainz at home, who we just talked about, are much better in front of their own fans. And then Bochum at home, who are obviously much better in front of their own fans as well. So their recent away forms may be a little skewed. And I suspect that Darmstadt should allow them to kind of get back to the mean in that regard and get back on the winning track. So yeah, I think they're going to win 2-0.
Yeah, I went for something really similar. I went for a 3-1 Hoffenheim win. I actually thought Hoffenheim played really well against Leipzig last week. I watched that game on Friday night. Very exhausted because I arrived that day from Canada, right? Barely was able to keep my eyes open towards the end of the game. But, actually, from what I remember, they played quite well in that match. So, I think Hoffenheim are going to smash poor Darmstadt, who are now on one game left after that in their Bundesliga campaign before they reset everything in the second division, which is, I actually think, where they should belong as a club. And I don't mean this in any way demeaning or anything. I think that Darmstadt is a very, very solid second division team, and I think they're going to do quite well down there. All right, next Sunday game. This is actually the one I'm at. I am going to this game. It's Bayern against Wolfsburg. Obviously hope to go to this game in the anticipation of, getting some things out of the Bayern club in terms of, preparing for the Champions League final. And now this is going to be the post-mortem game. And I think it's going to be just as entertaining in many ways because now obviously everything is going to be about the next head coach. I don't want to be in Max Eberl's or Thomas Tuchel's shoes or any of the players' shoes in this game. I think this is a team that's walking wounded. I think there's going to be some very heavy rotation simply because so many players are walking hurt, right? And it must be so difficult to go from that Real Madrid game to this game, and having so many players who are just probably now checked out a little bit. And with all that in mind and all that attention everywhere else, I actually think this is going to be quite an entertaining game with some goals, which like, in German we have a term for this, typischer Sommerkick, a typical summer game in which like there's nothing on the line anymore. And so I actually think there's going to be goals in it, and I went for a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, I think this game will basically depend largely on what kind of state Bayern are in. They'll obviously might feel a degree of frustration as what happened in midweek, and they might then decide to inflict that frustration on Wolfsburg. But equally, they might show up and just continue feeling sorry for themselves. And, the manner in which the game finished, and obviously that linesman call, I did kind of make this point on Twitter. I was like, well, thank God Bayern Munich have a linesman to blame for that poor performance, rather than actually considering their own form and how they played and the state of the club's in at the moment. And I do kind of wonder if they might just show up in this game having learned very little from that match, thinking, well, it's not our fault we're out of the Champions League. And they might come up against a Wolfsburg side who really have turned things around against under Ralph Hasenhüttl. I think I said last on the main show this week that I think only one club have picked up more points than Wolfsburg since he took over. And, as a result, I suspect that this will probably be a very tight match, and I think Wolfsburg could cause something of an upset here. So I've gone for a draw. I'm not quite prepared to say Wolfsburg are going to win this game, but I think they're going to cause a lot of problems for a Bayern team that are still licking their wounds. So yeah, I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this game.
Yeah, so we're in similar lines here. I put out a meme last night after Leverkusen went through, the three dragons memes, the too impressive looking one and the goofy one. And I said that Bayern were the goofy dragon because they didn't get through their Champions League, through the European semi-final. And I had a lot of Bayern fans tell me that Bayern Munich were unlucky. I'm sorry, come on, you were unlucky in that one situation where the referee blew the whistle early. But you were torn apart by Vinicius Jr. Yeah. I mean, how many chances did Real have?
Yeah, exactly.
This could have been over after 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. They were anything but unlucky in that fixture.
Yeah, not to mention the 3 or 4 world-class saves Manuel Neuer had to make. And, Ancelotti came out after the game and said, well, if Bayern didn't got a goal chopped off, so did we, when that Nacho push on Kimmich was pulled up, which, I mean, I think that's a bit of a stretch to say that wasn't a foul.
That was a foul. That was a foul.
Yeah, but equally, that one itself could have counted, and the linesman or the referee could have missed that one just as easily. It's all marginal calls at the end of the day, so you just kind of have to get on with things and try and learn from them, which I'd be intrigued to see if Bayern have or will, either in this game or in the summer to come.
I also don't think Bayern would have survived the extra time.
Yeah. There's all the stuff about taking Harry Kane off. I saw Sky Sports tweeting yesterday saying, I actually responded to it because they had a poll out saying, should Tuchel have taken Harry Kane off? And I had just responded saying, well, yes, because he was injured. And there's nothing else to discuss there.
Yeah. And also another point that a lot of people said, they were unlucky because of all the injured players. And I'm like, that's team management. That's not luck.
Yeah.
I'm just one of those people who don't believe in luck. I think that everything leads, any results, are usually based on something that you have done, either in the long, medium, or short term. And the squad being at the state that the squad is at right now is not luck or unlucky. It's because the team just wasn't put together the right way. Period. And I think that's a really good way to maybe... Anyways, I just think to myself, Bayern fans who are out there and think that they were unlucky have to stop it. This defeat had nothing to do with luck. But I guess we'll see. I like it is the case with Dortmund leading up to the Champions League. We'll have plenty to talk about Bayern Munich, I'm sure, the next few weeks as things will be decided. So stay tuned. Stefan, we also have to talk about this next team, Bayer Leverkusen. Let's talk about the Bochum fixture first, and then I'll talk about what happened last night, which is getting old, I think, at this stage, because it's just so... we just all know what's going to happen. Let's say it that way. Anyways, so this Bochum fixture, Stefan. May 27, 2023 against VfL Bochum was the last time Leverkusen lost a match. A match, not just in the Bundesliga, but just period. That's the last time they lost a game. That's 49 games ago. Which is mind-boggling, which, by the way, is a new record, a record broken. They held a record together with Benfica for 48. Now they're the only team in Europe with that 49-game unbeaten run across all competitions, which is mightily impressive. They can extend that to 53 if they win all remaining games this season, which I sort of expect they will. Although, maybe not. Are Bochum going to do what they did last year and finally end this, Stefan?
It's such a tempting answer to give to say yes. Bochum obviously very, I don't want to say historically, but at least recently in recent years, really formidable team at home. We were discussing before we recorded whether we're going to call this one our local rivalry just to wind up the Bochum fans. It's not, obviously, but Leverkusen's just a few hours up the train, up the river to Bochum, and it's I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think Leverkusen showed in midweek. I think they've shown a lot recently that they are really kind of I don't want to say kind of running out of steam because they're not, but they've almost kind of gotten used to going down and kind of trying to bring it back in the second half. And I do kind of suspect that that's going to eventually catch up with them. Whether it happens before the end of the season or not, it's still up for debate, I suppose. But I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think Leverkusen are clearly going to have their eye off the ball here because they've got a Europa League final now to play in Dublin. And I've gone for a 2-2 draw here because I just can't say Bochum are going to win it.
I don't know. I actually suspect Leverkusen are going to win it. I think I went for a pretty tight result last week when they played Frankfurt, right? And then obviously Leverkusen absolutely smashed Frankfurt. I think Leverkusen are just now at the state now where they're in this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, everything just works. And there is such a level above everyone else in German football that they don't even have to try anymore, which can lead to difficulties, and that maybe gets us to yesterday's game in some ways. But I suspect Leverkusen are going to win this game, which has, of course, huge implications for the relegation zone, right? And I actually think that might also be why Alonso is going to give his players the directive to do their best, because I don't think Leverkusen want to be stuck with this implication that they didn't try hard enough, and could impact the relegation battle. So I actually suspect Leverkusen are going to win this game 2-1. The question though I have, Stefan, are they going to score that goal in the 99th minute? Because they keep doing this.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, I guess this is a good place to just park a few minutes and talk about yesterday's performance, which is, of course, the Europa League match against Roma, which I thought was hugely impressive for two different reasons. First, there was the first half where, Alonso essentially fields a starting 11 without Schick, without Boniface, without Wirtz. Hoffmann plays a number 10 role. Hlosek is the number 9. They have 6 or 7 chances that should all have been goals in the first half. The Roma backline was swimming. They had absolutely no control over this Leverkusen team. Svila, the goalkeeper, a tremendous performance by the young Serbian goalkeeper. Really kept Roma in the game. And then, Roma were given 2 penalties, which I think they were both penalties, and they gave them the 2-0 lead. And yet you still never had the feeling that Leverkusen were going to lose this match. In fact, when it finally did go to 2-1, which was an own goal from a corner kick, which is hilarious because, like, of all the ways that they could have scored, this was the least likeliest. I turned to my dad, who I watched the game with, and I said, like, now they're going to make it 2-2. And then, needless to say, Josip Stanisic comes on, right? And where Frimpong, and I think that was really interesting because Frimpong played right back, and Frimpong, I believe Frimpong is right-footed, right? And so he always kind of didn't have that sort of ability to turn in and then shoot, and Stanisic is left-footed, so when he came in, he turned into the inside and then actually finished with a really nice curled effort to make it 2-2, which was literally the final shot of the game. And you're just getting it's getting so predictable now, in a way. And some people are calling that lucky. I think that's anything but lucky, Stefan, what Leverkusen are doing at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you can tell throughout the game that Leverkusen were just, obviously Roma had a degree of luck with the manner in which they scored their goals. I thought the penalty call was pretty ludicrous, to be honest with you. The second one, that is the handball. It's just it. I don't know. I mean, the fact that I'm trying my best to actually avoid going on the rant about the handball rule, because it just drives me up the wall that obviously the player is not looking. He's trying. If anything, he's just closed his eyes because he expects the ball to hit him in the face. The ball's not going anywhere. Anyway, point is that I think Roma going ahead in that game was actually a bit of it was a little misleading, because obviously Leverkusen had so many chances, and then they eventually kind of they made Roma pay, because they basically just continued doing what they always have done. And that's kind of just the way that Leverkusen play. It's not so much that they leave things to the last minute, like I did suggest a minute ago. It's really just that they create chances from the first minute to the 90th minute, and if teams are able to kind of hold out, they eventually just crumble. And the way that Stanisic took that goal so late in the game is just a perfect example of the kind of composure in this team. I'm just so impressed, not only the fact that he obviously managed to hit it with a left foot in back post, but just the composure and how calm he looked when he took it. And this isn't exactly like, Stanisic isn't exactly a freewheeling wing-back who happily runs through defences for a living. He's more or less a kind of converted central defender who can play as a kind of rigid right-back to an extent. So, I mean, obviously I know he's developed quite a lot this season, but it just goes to show the confidence that just about every one of these players has. And we were discussing before we came on air here just how crazy it is that in a game of this magnitude for Leverkusen, Alonso still felt quite comfortable just benching Florian Wirtz because he thought we still have enough to do here. And I think that's quite interesting in itself. So, it could have been an upset. It could have been an end to that unbeaten run, but Leverkusen just keep doing it.
I think Stanisic is the 8th player this year to score in the 90th plus minute for Leverkusen.
Sorry, say again?
I think Stanisic is the 8th player to score in the 90th plus minute. Yeah, that's mental. I have some other stats. So the XG for this game was 2.81 to 2.15 for Leverkusen. But there's 2 penalties in there for Roma, right? So I think a penalty is 0.7.
Yeah, I think so, 0.75 or something, yeah.
Yeah, so you take that out, that Roma XG is actually quite low. Total shots, 32-11. Big chances, 7-4, and the big chances do include the 2 penalties, right? That is incredible. 32-11 shots is the one that stands out to me. That's like the kind of stuff you see in hockey.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, I think it's very well deserved. And the final now against Atalanta, I believe that is on May 25th, right? 2 days or 3 days before the cup final. So yeah, Leverkusen still very much on path to win the treble, and I think very much deserved though too as well. My final thought on this treble: did you see the new Bayern Munich jersey, Stefan, and how it plays tribute to the fact that the only Bundesliga team to have won the real treble of a Bundesliga title, DFB Pokal, and Champions League? They even included it in their press release.
I thought it was a tribute to Leverkusen and their remarkable form this season. That's what I think it's a tribute to. It's an abomination of a top, if you ask me. Especially a season after another abomination of a home top, which is that white one, which is fine as an away top or a third kit or something. But yeah, come on. I don't know who's picking these tops at Bayern Munich right now, but they need to get their act together, because it can't be a coincidence that the club's gone off the boil and doesn't look like typical Bayern when they're running around wearing football tops that simply aren't Bayern tops. It can't be a coincidence.
So I went to the Bayern shop to take a look at it, and I have two problems with it. A, it looks like, as you said, like a training top, and I only see two red tones. Unless they count the logo, which looks horrible, because like I hate when clubs make the logo sterilized in just one tonal color. Come on, put the real logo on it.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But we're just a couple of old men now who complain about modern things, I suppose.
So for the record, I actually did like this season's jersey, the red and white, because it looked traditional. But I understand why some people don't like it. And I actually did like the away top, the World Kit. I thought that was something very different, and it was kind of cool. It was wearable off the pitch, but yeah, this thing it reminds me of like the early 2000 jerseys that looked also like training kits. It's just not good, Adidas. Do better.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, we're getting way off topic here.
We do, which means we should probably cut this off. As always, this show is brought to you by Bet Online in association with Get German Football News. Check out that homepage. The guys over there are always great to post this content on their homepage as well. Next week, we'll have to see how we space out our content. There is no European football midweek, so it's going to look a little bit different. Having said that, there's some great content on the page already, so please give that a check that out as well on the Substack. And of course, for people who are still on the fence about signing up but are having a beef with the social media landscape as it is at the moment, I really recommend it. We have a great community. I think we had 1,300 messages during the Europa League games, or European games this week, Stefan, which is mightily impressive and just shows you what great of a community we have. So if you are not a subscriber yet, I would suggest check it out, especially if you're looking for a friendly Bundesliga community, because this one is definitely friendly. There's no trolls, no swearing and all that sort of stuff, and no one is calling anyone anything. So yeah, go check that out. I think that's it, Stefan, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Then we'll be back next week. Until then, auf Wiedersehen.
Whether you're a morning person or a bedtime procrastinator, everyone deserves a mattress that works for their style. And you'll find the best mattress for you at Ashley. The new Temper-Adapt collection at Ashley brings you one-of-a-kind body-conforming technology, making every sleep tailored to be your best. The collection also features cool-to-the-touch covers and motion absorption to help minimize sleep disruptions from partners, pets, or kids. Shop the all-new Temper-Adapt collection at Ashley, in-store or online at ashley.com. Ashley, for the love of home.
You know when you're listening to a true crime story that has an unbelievable plot twist that makes you stop in your tracks? That's what our podcast, People Are the Worst, brings you with each episode. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Rebecca. We're identical twins who love true crime cases that make you say, didn't see that coming, and we hate the people responsible for them. Listen to People Are the Worst now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.